Welcome to the InStory show. I'm Devorah Spilman, your host, and our theme is what does it mean to expand into a new story? And how do you come out of hiding and dare to be seen for who you really are by saying yes to your soul and telling your story? And today I'm thrilled to welcome Stephanie Banks. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Devorah. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. I'm going to read a little bit about you and we'll dive in. Stephanie Banks is a highly sought after intuitive channel, mentor, and guide who helps people connect on the soul level. She channels from the perspective of any soul currently on the planet, souls on the other side, purely non physical beings such as spirit guides, as well as trees, animals, and Gaia. Author of the bestseller Joining Joni, Staying Connected to Your Loved One Through Dementia and Beyond, Stephanie is currently completing her second book about her spiritual journey. In her TEDx talk, I Am an Intuitive Channel, she shares her unexpected experience with channeling and invites others to discover their own intuitive gifts. Super cool. We've already had so much fun talking to each other. So, I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everyone, which is what does expanding into a new story mean to you?
Hmm. Well, the good news is the whole planet is expanding into a new story. So we get to look at this from the lens of how can we be the most expanded, delighted and delightful, joyful and joy-filled version of ourselves. And there's lots of ways to do that. And for me, one of the key ways to do it is to spend time in nature. That is how I feel I am at my absolute best and most receptive and delighted. And also to do something creative. So, this for me sometimes is writing, it's often channeling. Channeling is just connecting to spirit. We all do this. And teaching others how to channel. This is how I am living into my expanded story.
So good. And I agree with you. I really do feel like we're all moving into an expanded story. And it's funny because it's an expanded story for us, but I feel like it's the natural story of who we
Hmm.
really are also, right?
Let's hope. That's my belief. That's my belief. I think we've had a lot of layers in the way for a while, and it comes from culture and society and conditioning.
Right.
And now, as these things are sort of combusting before our very eyes, we are given this very unique opportunity to rise to the occasion and imagine something different.
I agree. I agree. Well, I would love to hear a little bit of your story because almost everyone I interviewed didn't start out with this expanded consciousness and the channeling abilities or even calling it that. So tell us a little bit about kind of how, like I like to say, how you got from there to here.
Yes. So I'd never heard of channeling before. I was raised, I would say, in a typical environment, and we didn't talk a lot about spirituality. And I was not aware that there was a way to connect with beings that you couldn't see until my mom got dementia. And she had a form of dementia that actually started in her late 40s. It was a lesser known type. It's called frontotemporal dementia. And my relationship with her was really disintegrating. And I had all this background and training as a speech pathologist, so I knew how to clinically address dementia. But my mother was not a great patient for me. She did not she did not follow the instructions that I wanted her to follow. And I was finding that our interactions were getting so frustrating and so disconnecting, and I needed some help. And luckily, at the time, I had a best friend who was a very gifted channel. And I'm only using past tense because she's on the other side now. But I asked her, I had seen her channel souls that were still in body, souls that were in physical form. And I asked her, do you think you could channel my mom for me? I have questions for her soul. I want to know, what are we here to do together? How can I support her in this part of the journey? Um, why dementia? Why is this the affliction that our family is having to navigate right now? And she did. She very graciously and generously channeled my mom's soul while my mom was still alive. These were conversations that I could not have with her in body because her brain couldn't process language and information that way. So her soul did, though. And through my friend, I learned what I was doing well, what I was doing not so well. So I could release that and let go of it. And what my mom really needed from me for the remainder of our earthly journey together, which I was able to choose then to show up to.
So what did you find out that was different than what you knew?
Oh gosh. So let's see. I thought I was being a really great daughter by rescuing my father from some of her extreme mood changes and sometimes harsh words. And what she told me was that I was actually interfering in their dynamic, in their soul agreement. They had a soul agreement that is unique to them, that has nothing to do with me. It predated me. And when I swooped in, with my superhero cape to try to ameliorate the situation, she was basically like, back off. This is ours. We've got a separate relationship and connection than what I have with you. So I was able to leave what was theirs to them. She also shared with me that the moments where I tried to bring her back into engagement with conversation, like if I would see her get really dazed, she looked like she had a far off look in her face and her eyes seemed vacant, or she was not able to be part of the dinner conversation. Sometimes I would touch her, or I would talk directly to her or closer to her to try to loop her back into our conversation. And she told me, her soul told me, that's actually very jarring and disruptive. She said, what you don't know is that I'm not always just in a far off place. Sometimes I'm doing something far more interesting than your dinner conversation. And I'm visiting with ancestors, with beings, with spirit, with whatever strikes her fancy or her soul's fancy at the time. And here I am saying, Mom, we're talking about the weather. Or Mom, don't you want to know about such and such? And her soul's like, no, thank you. Please stop doing that. So I stopped and I learned to join her instead of like bringing her out of wherever she was and requiring her to join our topic. I could just be with her in silence. Or sometimes, if I felt like there was some engagement that was possible, I could say to her, hey, what do you sense right now? What do you see? What's on your heart? What are you present to? And just changing that from insisting that she be where we're at really was a lot more rich for both of us.
Wow. Well, and so where did that lead you in your work and your life?
Yes. Well, it changed my whole relationship with my mom, just having my friend channel her. And she channeled her for me, a number of times. This wasn't like a one and done sort of thing because our relationship continued to evolve just like her dementia continued to progress. So when I saw what that could do for our mother-daughter relationship, I knew I had to learn how to do this for myself. One, so I could stop pestering my friend. She had a life to live. And two, because I mean, I'm a mom, and at the time I was a wife and always a daughter and an aunt. And there are so many areas that channeling or connecting on the soul level could directly apply to and improve and give so much insight and love and depth to if I could just skip over all the nonsense and go to the soul level. So I started to study. I studied with a local teacher who was actually the teacher for my best friend that channeled for me the first time. I studied with a world-renowned psychic medium, Sonia Choquette. I took all of her levels of training. I studied with whatever was available at the time. I read everything that I could. I practiced. I channeled for friends, for family members until a moment in time where my guides told me in the carpool line that it was time for me to take this public.
Wow. So where has that led you? Like what's it like? What are the kind of where has it led you and what's opened up? What have you discovered?
Wow. Well, I discovered the authentic me.
Hmm.
I discovered that what I call channeling is a universal gift. There is nobody that is without it. I just happen to choose to devote thousands of hours of practice to it. So I'm very fluid and fluent with it. But we all channel all the time. Art is channeling, music is channeling, writing is channeling, dance is channeling, cooking is channeling, like all of these creative human endeavors. This is connecting to our divine nature. It's the truth of who we are. It's our essence. And it changed my career. I left my work as a medical speech pathologist to do this full time. I haven't looked back. I teach people how to channel. It's really about trusting yourself, your inner wisdom, your greater self. And so most of it is just getting out of our own way. And when I discovered that, it just all became really laser focused and simplified. And it has changed everything. Like, it's deepened all of my relationships. It has given me an opportunity to sort through which relationships belong and which ones are ready to be complete. Um, yeah, it has clarified pretty much every aspect of my life, and it has shown me what my soul is calling forward with regards to my purpose.
It's very exciting because it's allowing us to have access to things that were impossible. Like, what do you do with dementia? I interviewed someone else who has learned to do soul communication with her autistic son. Like, this is so, it's like liberating us from a kind of a trap, I think, that we have felt in. So, say a few more things about what's opening up that seems so wonderful to you from what you're up to.
Yes. Well, so I channel for a number of families who have loved ones, whether it's autism or whether it's a neurological, disorder or disease, but something that interrupts the flow of their communication or their ability to communicate. And so there's the clinical aspect that I had as a speech pathologist, understanding the pathways of the brain and how they operate and how we can access new pathways. And then there's the soul approach that I use as a channel. And combined, really, they're really quite exquisite. They join up really very well. I feel that what we are most in need of right now, both on an individual level and a collective humanity level, is to trust our inner knowing, no matter what and when the message is coming through. And we are very intentionally dissuaded from doing that, right? If you look at a patriarchal world culture, then why would women in their power be, something that's highlighted and encouraged when we are in a patriarchal culture? And so women specifically, not exclusively, but specifically have been trained to doubt ourselves, to not believe ourselves, to talk ourselves out of what we know to be true. And then we end up taking this very windy road that ends up in a lot of heartache unnecessarily because we didn't trust the very first nuanced information or insight that came through. So the first thing that comes through, I believe, is the true thing. And
Right.
then we tend to run it up the flagpole of cognition, overthinking, doubting ourselves, etc. And then we completely take it apart. And by the end, we're exhausted and confused. And
Yeah.
that contributes to the exhaustion, confusion, and chaos of the outer world.
Yes.
So I believe that if we learn a process or just a practice of listening for that first hint of insight, believing it doesn't mean we have to do anything with it. I got a lot of insight that I was going to get divorced before I actually had the courage to get divorced. I argued with my insight. I argued with the guides that told me, yeah, it's true, but you'll be okay, until I was ready. And so that was a matter of years where I, was in battle with that. And that's okay. I don't regret that. Everything happens in the timing when we're ready for it to occur. But this is what's in the field. This is what is, it's very normal to not believe your own wisdom. It's very normal to try to discount it. We've been taught how to do that. So this is a time of great unlearning.
I agree with you. And I often go at it from imagination because I did a whole thing on imagination and learning and how it's been taught out of us because that is one of those pathways to trusting what comes to you. And I have that exact experience that when I do my process, you have to trust the first thing you get because that's the one that sneaks in before your whole ego, judgmental mind jumps in. So one of the things that was very fun in our conversations before the interview was I was talking to you about my crows who I feed and who come into my yard and you're like, "Oh yeah, I talk with all different kinds of animals." So we were laughing about you're channeling something about my crows. Now, I wasn't sure we were going to talk about this in the interview, but I just think it's such a delightful side of what you're up to. And I think the more we get out into nature and allow ourselves to feel what the simple beings and plants and things in nature are saying to us in a way, like it's a wonderful thing. So maybe we'll spend a couple minutes for you to tune in to the crows because I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm getting a message from them. They come when I call them somewhat and I feed them peanuts and the other ones come and they make me happy. But I find them such a mystery. Like, why do they sometimes thousands gather in a tree all together? And they're so smart. You know, the hummingbirds come like all this. And people often feel like you said to me earlier, like you felt this thing when a red cardinal came and you felt it was your mother's presence coming. There's just so much more for us to discover that just brings us this delight. Like I feel the same thing in nature. I'm out there every day. And so, do you want to just go in and see from your particular
So
perspective what comes through?
if you if you want to channel them, I can channel them, but I don't have any control over the length of their message. So So, having said that, we also can talk about animal messengers. We can talk about how they are always communicating with us. Like every being that crosses your path is potentially a messenger, depending on if you're allowing your mind to orient in that way. There are entire books on this. I'm looking for one on my shelf right now where you can quickly look up like what is the significance of crow as an animal, a totem or an animal
Right.
messenger, and it'll give you characteristics around that. But I will tell you that everything that catches our attention is intentionally catching our attention. I will also remind all of us that it is not that there are humans and then there is nature, and nature is outside and humans are inside. Humans are nature. We are nature. We are not separate from it, nor are we positioned any higher. There's no such thing as the hierarchy here. So I think this is also an unlearning process and opportunity because humans have been behaving as though we are meant to dominate every creature, every being, every bit of land. No, look where that's gotten us. We're now facing whether or not our own species are going to make it. So it is a time to come back to ourselves. And
Mhm.
that is nature. So getting outside is where it starts and noticing the smallest of beings. Every time I channel Gaia, she tells me, remember, go to the tiniest. They are the ones that are the most overlooked, and yet they are the most magical beings. Like, let's take worms, for example. Without worms, and how many of us are like, ew, worms, right? No, 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 not ew, worms. Thank you, worms. Bless you, worms. We honor you, we revere you, worms, because without worms we have no healthy soil, and with no healthy soil we don't have healthy food, and without healthy food obviously we do not live. So I now have such a reverence and respect for worms. I have channeled them in podcasts for clients. I notice them in my garden. I almost kiss them, but I can't quite bring myself to do that. But they are absolutely magnificent and they're the great alchemizers. You think a worm can take what we consider to be trash or discards and it turns it into nutrients that makes life possible. What where is more magic than that?
Wow. Wow. I love that so much that we have to look beyond the story we just had.
Yes.
Like just looking beyond that. And so what it makes me think of is that the crows just make me feel happy that I see them. And that's sometimes maybe that's it.
Yes. Or
right?
you know what else? As you were talking, Devorah, I didn't channel them in the formal way, but as you were saying they make me happy, they said, and we are so amused by you, dear human.
Right.
They find you incredibly entertaining. I don't know what you're doing, maybe just being. But this is the reciprocity of
Exactly.
us with the natural world. This is
Right.
how it's meant to be.
Right. Like, and here's the thing, like I'm Jewish and I sometimes say prayers in Hebrew. So sometimes I'm opening my window and I'm singing out my Hebrew prayers, which that's what made me crack up. Like, oh, like she's so interesting. We're so amused.
Yes. Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
It's
so,
beautiful.
the other thing that made me think of when you said like we're all part of nature, I was reading something recently because I do study a lot of Jewish mystical things, and that before the Jewish teachings came, there was no 7 day cycle.
Mm,
There's no nature cycle of 7 days. And the
mm,
idea of a day of rest where we
mm,
actually stop planting, stop controlling, stop affecting, it just stopped me in my tracks and went, oh my gosh, we have this extra ability, but we have to use it
yes.
to enhance everything else and to pull our own energy back. Because, like, in the Sabbath is the idea that you're letting everything rest, not just you're resting,
Mhm,
but we're letting everything be the way that it is. I'm not planting my garden on the Sabbath, right?
mhm.
I'm just being in it. And
Yes.
that just really struck me the other day. I went, because the moon cycle is nature, the sun
Mhm.
cycle is nature, but the weekday cycle is not nature. Is that
Yes.
so interesting? I just,
Yes. And I wish that we could include in the day of rest also a day of rest and noticing.
yes, yes, I agree
Mhm,
with you. That's, I think, the idea is can you pause enough to notice? I love that word. Like, can you just notice something?
mhm,
I call it pause, notice, and shift. Like, if I'm going, I'll make myself pause. I'll notice what is it? What's bothering? And then you can
mhm.
choose. If you can't notice, you can't choose,
That's right.
right?
That's right. That's right.
And what I feel like you're teaching is this more expanded noticing,
Mhm. Yes.
right?
Yes. I mean, I know that there's a lot that I probably miss, but what I pick up on is so subtle now because the channeling has helped me to dial into that. When
Mhm.
you're listening for spirit and making space for it and doing practices that align with it, you are aligning with a subtlety. It's not shouty, it's not loud, it's not demanding, it's not insistent, it's not social media. So our job, the work really is how can I bring myself into the subtle place to be able to perceive that which is a match for that subtlety. And yeah, that's work. That is work when we are constantly bombarded in all of our sensory systems every minute of every day.
Right. That's why so many of us will say, I have to get out in nature,
Mhm.
right? Or have to get quiet, close my eyes, and notice my breath.
Yes,
Something that shifts us out of that constantly having our attention pulled,
yes,
right, by something as opposed to choosing to place our attention somewhere.
yes. In fact, before this conversation with you, I went out to my backyard with my dogs just to reset in between meetings and connect with nature. And there is this tiny like mound of sand that has cropped up in the yard, and there's a perfect little hole right in the middle of it. I grew up in Florida and we have fire ants. So this is not usually like a welcomed thing is to see a pile of sand. Then I have memories of like ants biting my legs when I didn't notice and I stepped in it. So my first thought was like kick it over, like get rid of it. But then I had this curiosity, and this is all that nature asks of us. Just get curious. So I went over and I looked down into it. The tiniest little beautiful bee, orange in color, was in the hole looking up at me as I'm looking down at her. And I'm like, oh, there's, wait a minute. Is this your house? Like you built this? And so I quick got online and started researching. And I learned that most bees nest in the ground. They're not in these hives, those are honeybees. But in where I live, they nest, and throughout the world, really, they nest in the ground. And this was a singular, so maybe think of it like a condominium of this one bee. It's hers, is she's a female, and that's how she protects herself, and she's a pollinator, and so I want her here. She has a very big job. We need our bees just like we need our worms. So without the curiosity of who lives here, who made that, what are you all about, how do you support the world, how do I support the world, it's this is like everything.
And it's fun,
Yes.
right? It's just
Yes.
fun
Yes.
to see what's out there, to have new discoveries. We get so habituated to being on automatic.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So really attuning to and attending to the smallest, like Gaia always says, the smallest of my creatures, notice them, get curious about them, appreciate them. They have big tasks that help you in your life.
Yeah, I really love that. All right, tell us a little bit about your free gift that you have for us.
Okay, so there is a meditation that will help you to connect with your higher self if you want to hear what your soul wants to share with you, and who doesn't, but we don't always know how to ask or how to get into the frame of mind or centeredness to ask. This is just a guided meditation that I have recorded to help you attune to that subtlety of your soul. Ask whatever questions. There are some that are provided in the meditation to ask and then receive. Remember, the first thing that comes through is the thing.
So true. So before we wrap up, do you want to do like a quick, like heart centering
Yeah,
um moment just for people to really kind of feel into what we've been talking about?
absolutely. So
Okay.
I use this, it's from Heart Math Institute, and it's called the quick coherence technique. And it brings your mind, your thoughts, and your heart into coherence, meaning that there's no energy loss, there's harmony, there is ease, evenness. So if you are not driving and you're able to safely close your eyes and feel comfortable doing so, go ahead and do so. And maybe you want to place a hand over your heart, maybe even two hands over your heart is what I like to do. And you're just going to pay attention to your breath right now. Just notice it. You don't have to change it. Breathe in whatever rhythm feels good and natural to you. Simply bringing your attention to your breath. And now I want to invite you to imagine that you are breathing in through the front of your heart. Just imagine. And exhaling out the back of your heart. So as you take your breaths, inhale and imagine that's coming through the front of your heart. Exhale out the back of your heart. And as you settle into an easeful rhythm like this, I will now invite you to conjure or imagine someone or something or some place that you absolutely adore. It could be your favorite spot in nature. It could be a companion animal. It could be another human, someone or something that you love. And send those feelings of appreciation, of gratitude, of love, of care, of kindness to that being or that place as you simply breathe. And please just take a few more breaths in this way as you stay centered on the love and gratitude and appreciation. And when you are ready, let your hands rest in your lap and gently open your eyes. And what we've done, as I mentioned, is bringing the heart and brain into more coherence. But what we've also done is we have added coherence to the collective field. So every time we meditate, every time we practice in this way, we are contributing something very important to the human collective field. And understandably, a lot of us are operating from a place of fear and overwhelm right now. It's a very frightening, lots of frightening world events. And if we add to the fear, that's adding to the fear. So drop in, connect in this way. You are contributing to the healing, you are contributing to the peace.
So true. And I have a question for you. I haven't done this for a while, but sometimes when I do that, breathing in to the front of my heart and breathing out the back of my heart, I don't know, remember where I learned this from, but when I breathe out the back, it's like a universe opens up behind me.
Yes.
There's this something about opening up the back of the heart, right? Is that a thing? I can't remember where I heard it, but as soon as we
Yeah.
did that, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's not in very many practices that I have come across like this, attending to the back of the heart. We're always here at the front with our touch, with our focus. So, yeah, there is an entire universe behind us. There is an entire 360 of the heart's perspective. So, it makes sense to include it.
Yeah. So it's this is where I'm like always trust the things that come to you
Mhm.
and allow them to be there, even if you don't know exactly what it means or what it is. All right, Stephanie, thank you so much for bringing your just wonderful, delightful perspective and abilities to us. Leave us with the last couple thoughts before we wrap up.
The last couple thoughts are get yourself outside. That's it. Mic drop. Get to nature. Hug a tree, kiss a worm, or appreciate them at the least. Notice the smallest among you and how important they are to the web of life.
Oh, you're speaking my language. I'm so with you. Yeah. So thank you. All right, everybody, get outside, trust what comes to you. And as I always say in farewell, remember to go out in the world. Has a different meaning right now. And share your story, live your purpose, and be a blessing. Bye, folks.